Deep beneath the ancient city, hidden from the eyes of the world, lay the entrance to the fabled tomb of forbidden magic. Orin, a seasoned explorer with a mysterious past, had finally uncovered the temple's location after years of relentless searching. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient secrets, the dim light of his torch casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. Accompanied by Astrid, a scholar of arcane lore, and Sable, a rogue with a knack for finding hidden traps, Orin stepped into the unknown. The temple's entrance was adorned with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of power and chaos, hinting at the dark magic contained within. Orin felt a shiver run down his spine as they crossed the threshold, his instincts warning him of the dangers ahead. Despite the fear gnawing at his resolve, he pressed on, driven by the promise of untold power and the hope of lifting a curse that had plagued his family for generations. As they ventured deeper into the temple, the trio encountered remnants of ancient traps and the skeletal remains of previous explorers who had met grim fates. Astrid's eyes gleamed with excitement as she deciphered the runes etched into the walls, while Sable's nimble fingers disarmed one deadly mechanism after another. Orin couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, the oppressive darkness seeming to pulse with a life of its own. The atmosphere grew colder, the silence only broken by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional drip of water from the ceiling. The trio arrived at a massive stone door covered in glyphs that pulsed with a faint, ominous glow. Astrid knelt to examine the markings, her breath visible in the frigid air. "This is it," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "The heart of the temple." With a deep breath, Orin pushed open the door, revealing a vast chamber filled with ancient relics and a towering altar at its center. The air crackled with dark energy, the presence of forbidden magic almost palpable. As they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them, and an eerie voice echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, seekers of power. You have entered the domain of the dark sorcerer." The chamber's eerie voice sent shivers down their spines as it continued to speak. "You have ventured far, but power comes at a price. Prove your worth, or perish." Orin, Astrid and Sable exchanged uneasy glances, their resolve hardening. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with peril, but turning back was not an option. Determined to press on, they began exploring the chamber, searching for clues to the sorcerer's intentions. As they examined the ancient relics scattered around the chamber, Astrid's keen eyes noticed a series of runes inscribed on the altar. She deciphered them with a mix of excitement and dread. "These runes speak of a powerful artifact hidden within the temple," she said, her voice trembling. "But it warns of dire consequences for those who seek it." Orin felt a surge of determination. The artifact might be their only hope of breaking the curse that had haunted his family for generations. Their exploration led them to a hidden passageway concealed behind the altar. The passage was narrow and treacherous, the walls closing in around them as they descended deeper into the temple's depths. The air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. Sable's sharp instincts kept them from triggering several deadly traps, but the further they went, the more perilous the journey became. As they ventured deeper, they encountered ghostly apparitions of the temple's previous victims, their mournful wails echoing through the passageways. The spectral forms clawed at them, seeking to drag them into the darkness. Orin brandished his torch, the flickering flame providing a momentary reprieve from the chilling assaults. "Stay close," he urged, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his heart. "We must keep moving." The passageway finally opened into a vast underground cavern, its ceiling lost in shadows. At the center of the cavern stood a pedestal, upon which rested a dark crystal pulsating with forbidden magic. As they approached, the air grew thick with tension, the crystal's power palpable. "This must be the artifact," Astrid whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. Orin reached out cautiously, his fingers trembling as they brushed against the crystal surface. Suddenly, the cavern trembled, and a deep malevolent laughter filled the air. "You have found the heart of darkness," the voice intoned, "but its power is not yours to claim." The cavern's tremors grew more violent, and the malevolent laughter echoed louder, reverberating through the chamber. Orin's fingers brushed against the dark crystal, and an overwhelming surge of energy coursed through his body. He stumbled back, his vision blurring as dark tendrils of magic seeped into his very soul. Astrid and Sable watched in horror as Orin struggled against the dark force attempting to consume him. The sorcerer's voice boomed, filling the cavern with an oppressive presence. "You seek power, but are you willing to pay the price?" Orin fought to regain control, his mind racing to find a way to break free from the sorcerer's grasp. Astrid frantically searched her knowledge of ancient lore, desperately trying to find a counterspell, while Sable drew her weapons, ready to defend her friends against any physical threat. As Orin battled the dark magic, he realized that the sorcerer's trap was not just physical, but psychological. The dark magic preyed on his deepest fears and regrets, amplifying them until they threatened to overwhelm him. Memories of his past failures and the curse that had haunted his family for generations resurfaced, clouding his thoughts and sapping his strength. "I will not be defeated," he growled, summoning every ounce of willpower to resist the sorcerer's influence. Astrid, meanwhile, discovered an ancient incantation inscribed on a nearby pillar. "This might work," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of the sorcerer's laughter and the cavern's tremors. She began to chant the incantation, her voice growing stronger with each word. The air around her shimmered with arcane energy, and the dark tendrils of magic binding Orin began to weaken. With Astrid's chant providing a sliver of hope, Orin summoned the last of his strength and reached out to the dark crystal once more. This time, instead of trying to claim its power, he focused on severing the sorcerer's connection to it. The crystal pulsed violently, its dark energy thrashing as Orin and the sorcerer engaged in a battle of wills. With a final desperate effort, Orin shattered the crystal, sending a shockwave of dark energy rippling through the cavern. The sorcerer's laughter turned to a howl of rage and pain as his presence was banished from the temple. The shockwave from the shattered crystal reverberated through the cavern, the dark energy dissipating into the air. Orin, Astrid and Sable collapsed to the ground, their bodies exhausted from the intense battle. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of calm and quiet. The sorcerer's presence had been banished, but the cost had been high. As they regained their strength, Orin helped Astrid and Sable to their feet. The cavern, now eerily silent, seemed to have lost its menacing aura. "We did it," Orin said, his voice hoarse. Astrid nodded, though her expression was one of concern. "The heart of darkness is destroyed, but its power was not meant for us," she said. "We must leave this place before it collapses." They hurried back through the hidden passageway, the ghostly apparitions now gone. The temple seemed to be crumbling around them, stones falling from the ceiling as they ran. Sable led the way, her keen eyes spotting the safest path through the debris. Orin and Astrid followed closely, their hearts pounding with both relief and lingering fear. As they emerged from the temple into the dim light of dawn, the entrance behind them caved in, sealing the tomb forever. The trio stood in silence, the weight of their ordeal settling over them. Orin glanced at his companions, grateful for their unwavering support. "We survived," he said softly, "but the curse on my family remains." Astrid placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We have faced great darkness and come out alive," she said. "There is always hope." Sable nodded in agreement, her usual aloof demeanor softened by the shared experience. "We will find another way to break the curse," she said, "together." The trio stood together, their eyes reflecting the dawning light. Though the tomb had been sealed and the sorcerer banished, the weight of the curse still hung heavily over Orin. The dark magic had been powerful, and its remnants lingered in his mind, a constant reminder of the danger they had faced. Yet there was a sense of hope in the air, a belief that they could find another way to break the curse. Orin looked at his companions, their faces etched with determination and resolve. Astrid's knowledge of ancient lore and Sable's unwavering courage had been crucial in their survival. "Thank you," Orin said quietly. "I couldn't have done this without you." Astrid smiled softly, her eyes gleaming with reassurance. "We are not done yet, Orin. There is still much to learn, and we will find a way." As they made their way back to the surface, the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The world seemed a little brighter, the shadows of the night retreating in the face of the new day. Orin felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would continue his quest, not just for himself, but for his family and the legacy they bore. However, as they reached the entrance of the temple, a sudden realization dawned on Astrid. "Wait," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The runes. They mentioned a trap." Orin and Sable turned to her, confusion evident in their eyes. "What do you mean?" Sable asked, her voice tense. "The sorcerer's trap was not just the dark magic," Astrid explained. "The temple itself is the trap." Before they could react, the ground beneath them began to tremble violently. The entrance they had just escaped from started to close, the stones grinding together with a deafening roar. The air grew thick with the malevolent presence of the sorcerer, his laughter echoing once more. "You cannot escape my grasp," the voice boomed. Orin pushed Astrid and Sable towards the closing gap, his face set with determination. "Go! I'll hold it off," he shouted. Astrid and Sable hesitated, their eyes filled with horror and grief, but they knew they had no choice. They sprinted towards the closing gap, barely making it through as the entrance sealed shut forever. They turned back, their hearts breaking as they realized Orin was trapped inside. Gasping for breath, they knew their ordeal was far from over. The sorcerer's trap had claimed Orin, and they were left to carry on the fight against the curse without him.